Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Canal Algérie's nightly news edition. On to the headlines. The President of the Republic receives the Congolese State Minister, Minister of Mine and Industries and Geology, Pierre Oba, now on a visit to our country. The President of the Republic extends condolences to the General Caliph of the Tijaniya Brotherhood following the death of Sheikh Sidi Abd al-Muttalib at-Tijani. Former war veteran and member of the government Mohamed Mazouni passes away, and the head of state extends his heartfelt condolences to the late's family. The Foreign Affairs Ministry denies the statements attributed to the President of the Republic during the Arab Islamic Summit held in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The 2025 finance draft bill approved with majority by Parliament, a draft taking into account the state's social policy and investment incentives. The situation is always critical in Morocco, with a multifaceted crisis seriously hitting the country. More details to discover in our news. Welcome back. We begin with tonight's major story, where the President of the Republic received Pierre Oba, Minister of State for Mine and Industries and Geology of the Republic of Congo. The audience took place in the presence of the Principal Private Secretary to the Presidency of the Republic, Boualam Boualam, and the Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Arqab. Following the audience, the Congolese State Minister had this to say to press.
Je viens d'avoir un grand privilège d'être reçu par Son Excellence le Président de la République d'Algérie.
I have just had the privilege to be received by the Algerian President of the Republic, bearing for him a message from the Congolese President, Denis Sassou Nguesso, so as to consolidate the strong and ancient ties linking the two states in all fields, notably hydrocarbons and mineral industries, but above all in the sector of fertilizers such as phosphate and potash that Congo abounds with a huge reserve. Making profit of Algiers' know-how in the field of fertilizers, in addition to iron that Congo abounds as well with a huge reserve. Therefore, it was a fruitful meeting, during which I received a lot of messages towards President Sassou Nguesso. I am very satisfied. Thank you very much.
J'en suis vraiment satisfait et je vous remercie.
The Minister of State for Mine and Industries and Geology of the Republic of the Congo paid a visit to the calcium carbonate factory in Oulad Rahmoun in the province of Constantine, where he listened to explanations on the production of the National Aggregates Corporation, which uses materials for construction as well as calcium carbonate in industrial uses. To this sad news, where the General Caliph of the Tariqa Tijaniya passed away. Following this painful ordeal, the President of the Republic extended deep condolences and sympathy to the sheikhs, imams and followers of the Tariqa Tijaniya, in addition to the family of the deceased, adding that the late sheikh carried with him the blessed legacy of the Tijaniya family, its radiant spiritual essence, and established Quranic schools in Senegal, Mauritania and Gambia, stating that under the Tijaniya Brotherhood, he generously supported students, Quranic memorizers, and those working in the path of goodness. Indeed, to Allah we belong, and to Him we shall return. The former government member, war veteran or mujahid, Mohamed Mazouni, former officer of the National Liberation Army, also passed away. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, learned this news with deep sadness and sorrow. He extended heartfelt condolences to the family of the late and the revolutionary family, praying Allah Almighty to grant him mercy and to welcome him in his vast paradise, and to grant his close ones patience. Indeed, to Allah we belong, and to Him we shall return. The lofty itinerary of the exceptional figure during the Liberation War and after independence is portrayed in this concise story by Melissa Kabash.
It is with deep sorrow that we receive the death of war veteran and former officer of the National Liberation Army of the 5th Historic Region, Mohamed Mazouni, at the age of 88. The late was born on March 10, 1937, and had a rich career full of heroic acts and knowledge. Mazzoni had a PhD degree in mathematics and a diploma in administrative affairs from the Institute of Paris and London's Business School. He held several key positions, namely the director of Erzurum refinery in Oran province, before becoming deputy general director of the Algerian gas company Sonatrach, in charge of liquefied natural gas and oil. Mazzoni was also a fisheries minister, then a vice minister in charge of mechanical industry. Mohamed Mazzoni devoted his lifetime to better serve his country, the reason for which he has always been appreciated by the officials or ordinary fellow citizens.
Now to this communique by the MFA. In an unjustified exchange between the commentary and the content of the official speech, a private newspaper inappropriately attributed unfounded statements to the President of the Republic made by the Minister of Foreign Affairs on behalf of the President of the Republic during the recent Arab Islamic Summit in Riyadh. The MFA statement added, as it is evident from the written version as well as the visual version that the Algerian statement of the Riyadh summit does not call in any way or form for the reimposition of the Arab embargo of 73, explaining that a simple reading of this statement is enough to confirm that the political, diplomatic, economic, and military sanctions referred to are those that Algeria calls for imposing on the Zionist entity due to the aggression, genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, which it continues to commit with impunity in Gaza. In other news, MPs of the National People's Assembly approved with a majority the draft Finance Bill 2025 in a plenary session chaired by the Speaker of the MP, Brahim Boughali, in the presence of the Finance Minister Laziz Fayed and other members of the government. The Finance Minister confirmed the state continues to back the measures meant to protect citizens' purchasing power and address their concerns. On to the cabinet meeting chaired by the Premier Nadir Al-Arbawi, devoted to examining the improvement and modernization of public services and infrastructure and implementing the directives of the President of the Republic. During this meeting, the government listened to a presentation on the measures taken by the sectors of the interior and local authorities, post and telecommunications, health and transport in order to meet the expectations and daily concerns of citizens. This involves improving the quality of public services, in particular by fighting against bureaucracy and implementing the digital transformation as part of monitoring the implementation of the directives of the President of the Republic relating to the achievement of water security, in particular guaranteeing a regular supply of drinking water to populations in areas affected by water stress. The government also listened to a presentation on the progress of the work on the construction of the 5 seawater desalination plants in Tipaza, Boumerdas, Iran, Bijaya, and Al-Taraf. The project to transfer groundwater from the El Gatrani catchment area in Beni Unif was also examined with the aim of providing drinking water to the cities of Bashar, Abdallah, and Knatsa. Similarly, the government examined a draft presidential decree defining the conditions and modalities for the creation and maintenance of artistic works in public spaces. This text aims to guarantee respect for the historical, cultural, and social values of the Algerian nation. Finally, the government examined the draft executive decree relating to the disaster risk intervention plans, establishing the organization and coordination of relief and intervention in the event of a disaster risk affecting industrial installations and works. Following the reshuffle carried out at the level of valleys or governors by the President of the Republic, the Minister of Interior, Brahim Rad, supervised the installation of Saïd Khalil as the governor of Tiaret. The ceremony took place in the presence of the local elected and the province's officials and representatives of the civil society. On the occasion, Brahim Rad reiterated that the projects achieved in different sectors are shaping Algeria for the better. On to the operational report of the People's National Army's activity in the past week. In the context of the fight against terrorism, detachments of the People's National Army arrested 17 support elements to terrorist groups during separate operations. As part of the fight against organized crime and the continuation of the tireless efforts aimed at countering the scourge of drug trafficking in our country, combined detachments of the PNA intercepted, in coordination with the different security services, in operations across the military regions, 32 drug traffickers and averted attempts to introduce 9 quintals and 81 kilograms of processed keef to the borders with Morocco, while 116,800 psychotropic tablets were seized. من راس برج بجي مختار إنجزام جانت, detachments of the People's National Army arrested 120 individuals and seized 42 vehicles, 203 generators, 185 jackhammers, 7 metal detectors, quantities of mixture of raw gold and stones, explosives, detonation tools, and other equipment used in illegal gold mining operations. On the other hand, 20 other individuals were arrested in 9 hunting rifles, 2 automatic pistols, over 33,000 liters of fuel, as well as 58 quintals of tobacco, 63 tons of foodstuffs intended for smuggling and speculation were also seized during separate operations across the national territory. For their part, the border guard thwarted attempts of illegal immigration of individuals on board of homemade boats and rescued 413, while 314 illegal immigrants of different nationalities were arrested across the national territory. End communique. In the daily window on the situation in the Middle East, massacres committed by the Zionist entity on Palestinians continue. The Israeli killing machinery spared no one, including humanitarian workers. 241 UN personnel were murdered in the enclave since the beginning of the aggressions, according to the Humanitarian Affairs Coordination, in addition to 326 members of different organizations aside from the UN. To Morocco now, where the absence of the king and his worsening health condition is plunging the country into an unprecedented confusion, threatening its territorial integrity. War over the succession worsens the socio-economic situation of the country, whose people are already suffering. Manan Maafa with more.
When the monarchy is under threat, it is the eternal guardian of the throne that leads turn, even as if they turn their backs on their own people. The current situation lays bare the weaknesses of the monarchy, and the visit by the French president shows that France is never far behind when it comes to maintaining its hold over its sphere of influence in North Africa. The international press and various opposition figures have highlighted the deteriorating health of the king, which was apparent during his recent visit by the French president. It is undeniable that the health of the King of Morocco has significantly worsened, rendering him unable to govern. Beneath the veneer of a modernized monarchy lies a system where inaction have become the norm. For months, the monarch's absence and his almost permanent stay in France have cast a shadow over the true management of the kingdom, carefully concealed by the propaganda machine from Marseille. The fragile health of Mohammed VI, who has become a shadow of his former self, raises legitimate doubts about his ability to rule and paves the way for internal power struggles that plague the regime as succession looms. The conflict extends beyond the palace walls, and it is also evident within the royal family itself, between the king's siblings. It is fueled by Moulay Rashid, who believes he is the most legitimate successor to Mohammed VI. On the other side, there is a faction supporting Mohammed VI's son, Crown Prince Hassan. For the Moroccan population suffering from the effects of an economy stifled by inflation and crushing unemployment, these palace disputes are yet another sign of the indifference of the Marseille-based leader toward the real needs of the people. Public discontent is growing, and the youth are voicing a simmering anger. As a diversionary tactic, the Moroccan regime does not hesitate to exploit tensions with Algeria to shift attention away from its own failures. The escalation of provocations, particularly concerning on illusory sovereignty over Western Sahara, reflects a cynical strategy aimed at rallying the population around an external enemy to conceal internal weaknesses. This monarchy, entrenched in its privileges and disconnected from its own people, is now merely a fragile facade, so fragile that it has resorted to involving the Zionist adversary in the region through its perilous relationship that threatens peace. The Morocco of the Makhzen seems on the brink and will not be able to control a country whose people are yearning for a change, even if it means a new conflict.
Protests indeed continue in several Moroccan cities to denounce the Makhzen's complicity with the Zionist genocidal machine. In addition to all the partnership agreements signed in several sectors, Tangier received a vessel transporting weapons to the Zionist entity. Manan Maafa once again.
Hundreds of people took to the streets of Casablanca, Rabat and Tangier to voice their anger and denounce the Makhzen's support to a criminal entity conducting an ongoing genocide against Palestinian civilians, violating the principles of justice and solidarity with the Palestinian people and their fair cause. By allowing the U.S. vessel Maersk Denver carrying weapons and supplies intended for the Zionist regime to dock to the port of Tangier, the Makhzen boldly signals its support for the Zionist occupation. This move stands in stark contradiction to international resolutions and the actions taken by numerous countries to prohibit and suspend the shipment of arms to the Zionist entity, which uses them in its heinous acts of genocide in Gaza. And for the Moroccan people, this is a breaking point.
Spain categorically refused to receive the vessel. The Makhzen, on the other hand, did it with open arms. It is a shameful act and a treason at the same time for our brotherly Palestinian people. We will continue to take to the streets to denounce normalization with Zionists. We would like to tell our Palestinian brothers that we completely reject this act of treason. We will continue to fight for Palestine. We will protest every day if it takes to silence the traitors of the Makhzen who serve the interests of the Zionist entity.
In response to this major protest movement, the Makhzen did nothing but violently repressing and mass arresting its people, who did nothing but speak up for their Palestinian brothers.
And to showcase Algeria's unwavering support when it comes to the Sahrawi people's fair cause, the Book Fair of Algiers is devoted to a forum to discuss the political situation of the last colony in Africa, as well as its latest updates. Reported by Mariam Damis, taken up by Melissa Kabash.
And to honor the fair cause of the Sahrawi people, the Book Fair of Algiers devoted a forum to it so as to bring support and highlight the need to give it an international dimension, especially that Sahrawi media is being censored and repressed, knowing the important role it plays in the struggle for independence.
Unfortunately, the Moroccan violation of human rights, namely the Sahrawi's right to self-determination, is a delicate situation, criticized by several international organizations. Even the United Nations recognize that the Moroccan violations are blatant and must be stopped. But there is the absence of a political will from the United Nations and the human rights institutions capable of imposing international law when it comes to Western Sahara. The international law remains the strongest judicial framework when it comes to Western Sahara, because we know that this cause is qualified as a decolonization process.
As indicated before, the role of media outlets is needed, especially when it comes to denouncing the violations committed against human rights by the Moroccan occupier.
The Union of Journalists, Writers and Sahrawi Authors is committed to promote press and encourage writers to fight for the Sahrawi cause by standing against the silence being imposed on this cause. Its objectives include the preservation of the Sahrawi collective memory, the consolidation of sovereignty symbols, and the development of the Sahrawi National Library. Our aim is to highlight the rich Sahrawi identity and protect the freedom of speech, a right that remains oppressed by the Moroccan occupier, considered as a punishment leading even to a death sentence.
No matter the practices committed and the number of resolutions violated, the Sahrawi people remain strong and determined to keep fighting so as to snatch freedom and liberate their occupied territories.
In a related context, several German cities were the scene of various activities and conferences in regard to Western Sahara, the respect of human rights, and the fight against neocolonialism. Human rights activists and political militants reaffirmed the fairness of this cause and called for the implementation of the rulings of the EU's Court of Justice and the UN Decolonization Committee. Let's head to Chile now, where the ambassador of Algeria and Friends of the Algerian Revolution commemorated the 70th anniversary of the glorious November Revolution. The meeting organized in this brotherly country revolved around the role of diplomacy during the Liberation War. Guests of different countries were present, in addition to Friends of the Algerian Revolution. And with that, we end tonight's bulletin. Thank you for watching. Take care and be well.